For you to define what success is, you have to know what's important to you and the things that you value. Like, ain't nobody gonna tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
Right? I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done with letting people dictate what I can or can't feel. Right?
Exactly.
And that's hopefully the message that we're communicating or inspiring to people, right?
It's just to start and keep going.
Just start.
Like, keep step by step, and then you're gonna look back like, oh wow. Like, I didn't know I could come here. I didn't know I could get this far.
To get to where we've gotten to, we needed to work 3 times as hard.
Let's flat out. Big teams, big boys, eh? My highs and lows inherit growth, Mr. Deeds. Went from juggling 3 jobs to CEO like I'm Steve. Never been a rotten apple, call me John Appleseed. That's how I bleed. God can see, no other man can judge me. Call him Mike, Mr. International, getting cream. Single mother told me worth, and now I'm worth everything. Went from Wall Street to Abu Dhabi, straight rolling in a Maserati with women that feel exotic. My life too pristine.
Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
It was film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly. We gotta make a statement. Last
What's
flight
going
out.
on, man?
Let's flat out.
Welcome back to Last Flight Out podcast. Once again, we're your hosts, Mike and Jay. Thanks everyone for tuning back in. You can follow me at JLubriel26 on all social media platforms, and you can follow Mike at
If Mike was here.
Okay. You can follow the podcast channel at Last Flight Out Podcast on IG and TikTok. Please like and subscribe to this video on our YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up button for the LFO boys. And remember, you can catch our episodes via audio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Wherever you listen to it, we're there. Mike, how you doing, man? How you feeling?
Man, what a long weekend, to say the least.
It's been a long weekend, to say the least.
To really get this off the ground, all the background stuff, you know, as far as our intro, our launch, the website, it's really coming together.
It's really coming together.
It's not as easy as you think, or as other people think.
I have a lot of admiration for a lot of content creators now. After going through this experience, what has it been, like 5 to 6 months now? We've been doing this now to just even get to this point. But I think today we have a really, really good episode, a really good topic, right? Just sort of describing the expat experience through the lens of sort of a person of color.
Yeah.
We're both New Yorkers from New York, Wash Heights, Queens. I rep Queens, so shout out to Queens, right? Now we're gonna have to. We'll talk.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
We'll talk about that. But I rep my
I'm kind of disappointed in him. He's from the Heights, y'all. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, for sure. But look, I think we owe it to our listeners to sort of discuss how being a person of color has affected our experience living abroad. How living abroad has affected our relationship with our friends and family back home. How's that affected our relationship with ourselves? And we could talk about how, you know, any challenges that we faced and sort of if we navigate any racism, discrimination, sort of like the pros of being out here. There may be more opportunities here than we did back home, right?
Yep.
So how about we start with you, since you're the 8-year vet here. Have you faced any sort of challenges being a person of color living abroad in the GCC region?
In the GCC region, I have not, especially comparing, you know, back to living at home in New York City. I think over here, we talked about it before. It's like, you know, we're appreciated or feel like we're exotic, you know, which is a plus.
It is a plus. It is a plus.
And then career-wise, it's been nothing but endless opportunities here. And I would say, you know, it's a different type of racism here. You know, I don't want to paint, you know, a false picture that it doesn't exist here. It's just everywhere. And I think it's our job to just give the real, and people want to come to us for the authentic feel of just living abroad. But if you're from the U.S. and you're of color, it's great because, you know, our education system is looked at into a high regard. Right. So coming out here with a bachelor's, a master's degree, or with some high-level degree, you're going to get that respect here.
Right.
Know?
And do you feel that where you're at currently, do you feel like you'd be able to have that role back home as quick as you attained it? Or do you feel like maybe you would have lagged a little bit in your career back home? Or do you feel like you sort of accelerated your career track? We're just talking about your career, solely your career. Obviously the lifestyle has skyrocketed. There's no comparison. I don't think there's any comparison.
You can't compare.
You cannot comparison. But just from a career trajectory, and then we can get into your personal high life, rock star life that you have out here in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE.
Yeah. So I think career-wise, I think here was definitely like a boost initially.
Right.
So it's that fast rocket where you're at that level. But I think now I've been here 8 years and I see my my friends that are, you know, in the same industry as me, they've kind of caught up.
Right.
So I'm at that point now where I'm like, career-wise,
Right.
what's it gonna be? You know?
And someone with as much ambition as we do, we don't want to stay
Yeah,
stagnant.
we don't want to stay stagnant.
Right.
Exactly.
So after a while, look, we practice. At least for me, I don't like being comfortable.
Exactly.
Right. I like to
Yeah.
always be learning. I want to feel like I'm always learning. And I feel like the reason why I became an expat was for a new challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hate it if it doesn't matter what country you put me in. If I feel stagnant in any part of my life, I feel like there needs to be a change that needs to be made. Right.
Exactly.
So,
I'm the same here.
do you feel like maybe you've reached a little bit of a stagnation point? Not that I know you love your job, right?
Yeah.
But do you feel like here, because of maybe Emiratization, that's a very public, that's a
big
public,
thing.
that's a public policy of the country, right? So we're
Yeah.
not selling it, we're not saying anything that people don't already know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a sort of ceiling that people hit as an expat, unfortunately, here?
There's definitely a ceiling here, as far as, especially depending on the industry you go with. If you're in a company that's that's public or that's private, there's a difference there. But there is a push for amortization, which is a good thing, you know, for the population here, or for the locals that are here. But as an expat, it's, you know, if you want to keep growing and potentially be a CEO or a CIO, in my case, I don't think that'll necessarily happen here. Okay. But the experience you get here is extremely valuable. Just working with different cultures and things like that, different settings. You know, you learn a lot, where I know whenever my next role is, it's going to just put me leaps and bounds ahead of other
Right, because
people.
you learn, they do give you a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah,
here, right?
they definitely do.
I think for me, it's sort of, in my industry is a little different. I'm a lawyer, right? So I practice a certain practice where practicing outside of the U.S., you get certain experience that you would never get in the U.S., but
Yeah.
I'm missing that U.S. concentrated sort of practice as part of my practice, sort of that deal workflow. So there's ebbs and flows and pros and cons to me being out here, but in terms of what my long-term future is and with the things that I want, I'm getting those soft skills of just dealing with people from extremely different cultures, right? From back home than to here. So I feel from that aspect, I'm able to deal with a large bandwidth of different personalities and temperaments and personalities and, you know, tolerances and temperaments. So that's been really good.
And was it the same from you going from London to now here, or you had to make those adjustments along the way each time?
In terms of diversity, London and here, it's different types of diversity, right?
Yeah.
Because like we were talking about, there's not that many Latinos here, but there's a lot of different people from other places around the world here, right? So I feel like geographically, depending on where you're at, you'll find different types of diversity. So I've had to adjust based upon, you know, cultural like sort of differences. Like, for example, in the US on Wall Street, people just say, Michael, please do this. Here it's like, dear Michael, I hope all is well. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. There's like a whole paragraph of niceties, and then you jump into something like, please, can you kindly do blank, right? It's sort of like, so I've kind of like adopted that as part of my personality. So when I speak to maybe another American, a Wall Street banker or a lawyer, and they just say John without the hi or the DR, I find that kind of like, oh, but I have to remember like, okay, that's just the Wall Street way of doing things. Just quick, efficient, to the point. And here, I think people actually take the time to actually want to get to know how your day was going, right? So,
And I had a question. So you being of Dominican descent, does that even play a role, or do people even know where the DR, the Dominican Republic, is?
I think people know. I think when I say Caribbean, they know the region.
Okay.
But a lot of people, like, they just kind of say, yeah. But if I actually pulled up the map, I don't think people actually know where it is here. Maybe they know Punta Cana or whatever, but I haven't met another Dominican since I've been here. Like when I was in London, I met a couple, but not that many. But here, I think people mistake me for being Arabic. I don't know how true or how not true that is, right?
You can pass.
So maybe it's like, again, maybe it's the cut. Maybe it's the cut.
Faded beard.
It's the fade, man. But I think for me, like similar to you, I haven't faced any discrimination or racism since I've been here. In fact, I think that because I'm an expat and I came here specifically for work, people see me in a different light. I don't know why, right? I feel like I'm treated really nicely here. Definitely. I'm treated nicely in New York, but I'm just another New York dude when I'm back in New York, right? So it's sort of like people may be a little more rough with me. So that's when the New York comes out or whatever. But you know, we've spoken about sort of from the lens of being a person of color and being in the UAE. How has that, like you said, are you the first person to graduate a college degree in your family?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So yeah.
Has that sort of, what's the perception when you say you're living back home, you're living in the UAE to people back home, like what do you think is their perception? Do you think they're like, yo, this guy must be making like
no,
a
of course.
truckload of cash, you know what I mean? So like, it's like what?
And it doesn't help that, I think both of us, like, we like to travel and
Right.
we do like quick trips here, there.
Yeah, right. So,
So
you like
people
to show,
see
and
that.
like the thing is, we like to show it on our Instagrams, right?
I
So
know.
people see it, because if people didn't see it, then people wouldn't know about it, and then people wouldn't be able to associate certain actions to what we're doing on social media, right?
Exactly.
And what they're not seeing is how hard we're working in the background, working into the late hours of the night on this podcast or on our jobs, and having to balance being a brother, a family member, an employee, a podcast creator, right? And they don't see all that. So all they see is the glam on Instagram, and they think that everything's gravy here, and then we don't have any of our own problems, right?
Yeah.
So how has that affected your and again, we're gonna get real personal here. In your family, would you say that you're the most financially successful person? Or at least at the top?
I'll probably say, and plus no responsibilities as far as having like a family and kids. Like, yeah, definitely. Like, I'm in a position to just do certain things. Blessed to be in a position to just do certain things that some of my family members can't.
Okay. So, and has that affected your relationship in any way, living here, good or bad, by you living here and there being distance and sort of like having this perception of like, Mike is always traveling. We know he does pretty great for himself. Like, do you feel like that's been a challenge in having to reset expectations of certain people back home?
For the most part, no. So that expectation there is like, my family has been supportive and like, you're living your life and that's great for you. And, you're doing well. And my family's doing well as well also. Certain occasions, it's just you'll get that. Yeah, you can do it. You was just in and what is it? And you was just in Paris. Like, it's all right. And it's like, yeah, I was in Paris because I wanted to be in Paris, and it was certain things that I did, and to make that happen. But that doesn't mean everything is a go or everything is a green light. Right. They understand, like, yeah, since I went to Paris, I need to save a bit. Now,
right. Exactly. Maybe you need to cut off on some Koya outings.
Exactly.
That I know you like. And do you feel like, man, like, before I ask the next question, I feel like for me personally, I remember one family member told me my first expat stop was London, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I asked this person, should I go? The person's like, run, right? Sort of run, not in a bad way, but sort of get a perception of what everything is like by being separated from the situation.
Okay.
And for me, that made me realize who my true family and my true friends were.
Okay.
Right. And sometimes they were just family members because of proximity. Sometimes they were family members just because it was convenient. And for me, I live by saying that friendship doesn't mean anything when it's convenient. Being a family member to me doesn't mean anything if it's convenient. Yeah. Right. I want to see who pulls up for me when I really need it. Yeah. Right. The same way I show up for people when they really need it. Right. Exactly. So I feel like being an expat, and again, I feel in a way, I feel this way. I feel like I got drafted into the league. Right. I feel like I got drafted into the league because let's think about the statistics. And I don't have any raw data on this. So again, I'm noting this. I don't know any raw data. Yeah. I feel, how many persons of color graduate college in the U.S., right? We don't know that number.
We gotta Google that.
Probably a small amount.
Small amount,
right?
Yep.
How many people even make it to corporate America with a college degree who's a person of color? Probably even a smaller amount. Yep. How many people with a college degree who's in corporate America make it out the U.S. to go live, be an expat?
Even a smaller amount.
Right? So I'm pretty sure there's 450 basketball players in the NBA, plus the G League guys. That's probably up, right? Or whatever. Yep. There's not that many of us outside of the U.S. So why don't we ever hold ourselves up to that same light? You know what I mean? Yeah. So in a lot of ways, my family and maybe some family members may see me that way. Some of my friends may see me that way, right? Yeah. So they may be like, man, this guy has really done a lot. We probably had a better chance and ended up in the wrong side of the road, at least from my own experiences. I could have, one bad mistake I wouldn't be here. Easy, right? Yeah. So I think for me, because of all that pressure, I feel like sometimes being the first person who graduated from college, being the first person who graduated from graduate school, being the first person who, maybe not in corporate America, but I wouldn't, to be as financially successful as I've been, to be able to be blessed to do the things that I can do and be in the health to be able to do them. I feel like sometimes you have that pressure when you head back home of being man, I don't want to really split the bill with everybody. You know, I feel like sometimes if they want to come and hang out with me, maybe, you know, like I should foot the bill. But if you keep doing that.
Now, a question. Do you feel a certain responsibility that you like, all right, let me
I sometimes feel
help out a
guilty.
little? And
I sometimes feel guilty about my own success.
why is
Right.
that?
And the reason I do that is because, you know, I may have grown up with other people in my life, and maybe they didn't get to the level that I've gotten to. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that because of where they're at right now, that means they're a failure or whatever. But I just feel like because we all had the same opportunities, the same resources, and because I maybe took advantage of some opportunities, I wanted everybody. I want to elevate everybody. This is not fun for me if I can't share with people,
exactly.
right? Like I want to be able to share with everyone that I've grew up with and that I love and that I enjoy having time with, right? I want to enjoy with the people who were day ones, like day ones. You know what I mean? Like so, for me.
Wait, I was gonna say, I think out here you experienced it quick that what success is not even like a thing or a place, but being able to enjoy life comfortably with the people that you love and share those experiences.
Right.
You know?
And I think that people oftentimes here in the GCC or here in Dubai, especially, or in the UAE, they get caught up with keeping up with the Joneses. And you know what? One of my mentors told me, keeping up with the Joneses will make you go broke. Stay in your own lane and don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Don't merge unless you feel like don't merge into anybody else's lane. You keep running your own race. And I feel like I always constantly live by the rules, and I'm not gonna go ahead and pretend that I don't have temptations. I don't have vices. We all know how much I love closet too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's well documented
That's
at
the
this
closet,
point,
man.
right? So, but I've always been able to sit down and like stop and be like, look, I'm not gonna. This is my lane. Like you're in I don't need to buy a Porsche or buy a Rollie because to make me feel successful.
Yeah.
I know I'm good. Like I don't need
exactly.
anybody else to validate that, right? Like I came from the trenches. I got it out the mud. So nobody over here, just because they got a Rollie or they got a car that may be rented or Rolex that may be fake. I don't know if it's fake or real, right? But they're not gonna make me feel in a certain way or make me feel less because of that, right? So again, what about the question I was going to ask is that has some relationships, because you being a person of color and maybe the backgrounds that we come from, being minorities, being like, you know, maybe the first movers and being the risk takers, us punching that last flat out, as we like to say, right? Do you feel like you've identified who your true friends and family are over the last 8 years? Or have you had an experience where you're like, all right, like all my day ones have been my day ones, or have you sort of like had some rough patches along the way, and sort of like how did you navigate through those type of relationships, like those interactions with people who maybe you felt like were your friends but didn't really show up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the people who you say your friends and family are, sometimes if they just used to you or seeing you in a certain light, they can't see you outside of that. So I think even coming out here, there were doubts. They're like, you're never going to move out there. What? That's not you. You can't do it. And it's like, why would you say automatically I can't? You know, if I'm going through the process, that means I'm thinking about it and I can if I want to. Right. And so when you finally make that move, it's, oh, you really move? Are you going to be back in a year or two? Or I know you miss home, or,
I got a story for
you know,
but like, I'm going to let you keep going. I got a story.
All this stuff. So it's all that doubt until you kind of prove it. And it's like, you just doing you. And even so, people still tend to want to see you in your old ways or what you used to like or used to do. And it's like, if you haven't been closer to me and seen all the struggles that you go through when you're by yourself, when you're moving out here by yourself, doing the little things like turn on the lights, the internet and things like that, and just, you know, going through those pains, it's like people kind of forget. And it's like, no, I'm a different person now. Like, you know.
Do you feel like sometimes I feel like people freeze you on a certain timestamp?
Exactly.
Right? They know the John who left, what was it, September 2017. That's where people stop because it's the last time they saw me, right?
Yeah.
So when I come back, they associate the John of today from the guy from 2017, which is now almost 6 years ago, right? Or the person that they saw in college, or the person they saw in high school, and the person maybe they saw in middle school, because that was the last time that they saw me, right? They only have they only have the memories of me from when they last saw me, plus whatever they see on Instagram, which is basically the highlights of my life, right? Because I'm not going to put the personal things and the struggles that we go through, right?
Exactly.
And so they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm still associating with this person. So they're not acknowledging that growth that I did.
Exactly.
And coming out here, and the reason why I think we profess and we encourage people to take risk is because through the risk, that's the only way you're gonna ever grow. right? You're not going to grow in your comfort zone. I was not going to grow being in New York. I would have had a great career. I would have been another lawyer in New York City. I got a great offer from a great firm to go there, and I would have been one of 10,000.
Yeah.
Right? And I would have been one of just another lawyer, and people would have clapped for me, and people would have been great. I would have felt good about myself. But knowing what I know now, that's definitely something that I knew I didn't need at that time. I didn't need more comfort in my life. I needed things to get shaken up. I worked so hard. I remember just not having those college experiences. Man, I know your college experience as a college basketball player was way different, but I was somebody who got in through academic scholarship. So I was definitely somebody who was in the library all the time.
Yeah.
Just because I knew this is my only way out. This is the only way I'm going to get out of my situation, education, right? And I know other people have other avenues now with podcasting, entertainment, creation. Look, whatever your avenue is, go pursue it to the max and get to wherever you want to get to. Because if the only thing that's separating you between an idea, execution, and actually achieving is fear, this is your message of saying, get out of your couch, get out of whatever hesitation you're in, and just take that shot. Because you're either going to make the shot or you're going to learn from it. There's no missed shots.
Yeah.
I've learned there's no missed shots.
There's none.
Right?
None.
So,
and there's no L's, just lessons.
Just lessons,
no
right?
losses.
So,
but I got a question for you. Where did you get this drive from? So what was was there one moment in your life that you're like, all right, no, I got to go this route, that you kind of mapped it out for yourself?
Okay, so I think I was always self-driven. Right. I remember from being a small kid that I always wanted more. I didn't know what more was, but I was like, I need more than this.
Yeah.
I remember, me and my mom walking down Fifth Ave, and I was just a kid. So my mom loved going to the city, loved going down to the city, loved going downtown. And I remember her just window shopping. Yeah. I remember being like, why can't we just go in and just buy it? Obviously, I didn't have the concept of like, things cost bread, right? But I remember thinking to myself, I never want to be in a position where I can't do something.
Yeah.
Or I can't do most of the things that I want. I can't do everything that I want. I'm not at a point in my life yet where I can do absolutely everything that I have imagined in my head, right? Yeah. But that's the reason why we keep going every day, right? To achieve those things, right? Exactly. And I remember, oh man, this is gonna be tough, but this is a personal moment. So I remember when I was like 9 or 10. Look, my mom, God bless her soul, she worked multiple jobs to keep the lights on, single mother. My dad was always there, but my mom was the one who was there every single day. So shout out to moms.
Yeah.
I remember the internet.
Shout out to all the moms.
Shout out to all the moms, man. And I remember there was no internet. And I had a project that was due. I was like in the 3rd or 4th grade. And I had to walk 30 blocks to the nearest library to finish that project because she couldn't turn on the internet. Because the internet, the time back then, Time Warner Cable, you need to wait for the next day, mail the check, and wait for a few hours for that to come in. Yeah. If I didn't do the project, I would have got a 0 on the project. And I don't know why public schools didn't understand that, maybe broke kids don't have access to the internet all the time. Yeah. So I had to work 30 blocks. And I remember, whatever age I was, I forgot what it was, like 9, 10, I was like, this is the most incredibly pathetic feeling ever. And I don't want to ever feel like this. So I need to help myself so I can help the people around me. Yeah. And I remember that is what propelled me. So I remember from that point specifically, I was always a person who just sort of stayed away from bad influences. Yeah. And and this is a great segment to the next thing I wanted to talk about examples. Yeah. No one in my family graduated college. They were first generation immigrants, right? So they were learning English as I was learning English, right? They had menial jobs. Everyone's doing fine now. Over the years, people own businesses. People are doing their own thing. But at the time when I was growing up, we didn't have those resources, right? Yeah. So I didn't have my examples of what can life look like if you take a little risk or if you do things in the proper way. Exactly. Right? Not saying that people were doing anything improperly, but people were still trying to figure out the system themselves. So I just wanted to sort of say like to myself, how can I be my own example? Yeah. Right. And the only way you could be your own example is if you defined what are your goals and who you are as a person and what you define success is. And for you to define what success is, you have to know what's important to you and the things that you value. Yeah. So it took me a really long time, and I'm 32 years old now, and I'm finally starting to get to the place of the things that I value, so I can define what success really means to me. Okay. And I feel like by taking that risk of going to London, I realized in that moment when I was on that Virgin flight that I appreciate growth. in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't care what it is that I do, win, fail, draw, whatever. I need to grow one way or another out of it. And that I also have that as my criteria as the people I surround myself with.
Yeah.
Right? I need to be able to grow with you. I need to feel like we're adding value to each other. Right?
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about the dudes I see every once in a while to go party with. Right? They add value for that one night and what I need them for, and that's it. Right? But they're not in my everyday circle.
Yeah.
But in people like you and I have conversations offset, we're talking about ideas, where we're talking challenging each other. Right? Because you see things that are in different perspectives that I never would have thought about, and I hope that I do the same for you. Right?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
I think for you, being out here, because you're pretty ambitious, you're always got your hands in different pots.
Yeah.
What were you always like that? Was there like a certain moment in your life? Was it an event in your life that made you do that? Like what sort of like got you to this place where you're like, so, because the one thing I admire about you, man, is that you're always thinking about different ways of getting to a different place. I'm kind of stubborn. I kind of know one or two ways of getting there, and I'm gonna go break through that wall. But you're kind of like, you're finesse. So you're like, you know what? Let me try to Euro step to this place, right? So I think that's a great way, and I've actually learned a few things from you about that. But have you always been like that? Was it a certain experience?
Yeah, I would say for myself, just growing up, now that I think about it.
And one other thing, did coming out here, being an expat, add on to whatever personalities that you had, or did you sort of refine and sharpen? Like, did the experience sharpen certain character traits for you?
Definitely. But I guess taking it back for me, what I realized, or like growing up, didn't grow up in a rich household or anything like that. Single mother, working hard and all that, working overnight shifts to just put us through school.
Again, shout out to moms, man.
Yep. Went to private school, like Catholic school and all that, because she valued education. Right. Before getting the Jordans, before doing anything, it was like, we gotta make sure you have a uniform, you're going to a good school, and we in a stable place, and you can eat.
Right.
That was the basis. You have that.
If you got the basis, you can do anything, though.
Exactly. You could do anything. And then just in that household, regardless of where you live, if you live in the hood or anything like that, it's those disciplines, those teachings that could prepare you for the world. And so I think having that instilled in me, when I would go outside and, you have friends that are doing certain things. And, I grew up in the 90s in New York where people were, joining gangs at that time.
Gang violence was a big thing in the 90s in New York, man.
People wanted to sell drugs and things like that. It never appealed to me. Like, I would just see that. And when you talk about examples, I didn't have any real examples. What we have rappers, basketball players, and then
the people with the glitz and the glam, right? That's all you got to say. But I like to say those are fantasy turns into realities, right?
Yeah.
When people think about the American dream or any dream, or example, I like to think about people like you and me.
Yeah.
People who came from very humble beginnings, got to a place with some sort of like sustainable success, right? To be able to do most things that we do, to do the things that we do in the capacity that we're able to do, in the abundance we're able to do it, the things we're able to enjoy, the people we're able to bring around us. Shouldn't we be? I feel like that's the reason why we're trying to send this message out to everybody, right?
Exactly.
So like, it's sort of like, you don't need to be John Morant, you don't need to be Kobe Bryant, you don't need to be these like once in a generation persons to think to yourself like why can't I do that?
Exactly.
Right? Which is a great segue to the next thing I want to talk about, right? How many people, in your position with amazing ideas, aspirations, things that you've heard about, that if they had actually pursued it, they'd be at a totally different level. But because they didn't believe in themselves, or they'd be like, well, just because maybe this person did it and they're celebrity or whatever it is, why should I think that I do it? Because of that maybe lack of self-confidence, or that lack of drive, or that lack of like just basically like fearlessness. They didn't like. How many people have you come across that? Because personally, I've heard so many great ideas over my years. When I go back to New York and I'm in the city, I'm like, I always tell the person like, go do it.
Exactly.
What's stopping you? Man. You're in the same spot you were last year. Time is only you're gonna be 1 year older a year from now.
Exactly.
The only thing you have left is time. And look, if it's cost intensive, that's a different conversation, right? But to the extent that you really want it, you'll find the way to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, I know a few people that just so talented and so smart when you talk to them, and it's like, why aren't you doing it? And the main thing I think in life is just execution, actually having a mindset to just go through the process and actually get it done. And we're all not perfect. Like, there's times that I didn't do something because I was scared. And I think that kind of fear.
Take us into that. What were you scared that you never pursued?
who is it? I mean, there's quite a few. There's quite a few things, but I do a lot. Like
You do a lot. So I want to hear about the things. I want to hear about the things that you didn't do. I want to hear like, he does a lot. I'm like, what do you talk about?
That might be another episode. But you know what? Actually, I would say even just career wise, me ending up in technology. It was, and I started early. I tried to take shortcuts because I was like, man, I just want to be successful so bad. What's the quickest way to do that?
And at that time, what was success 10 years ago to you?
10 years ago, like to me, growing up, like in college, I'm like, I can't be broke. I need to have financial success. To have money coming in, right?
Just want to be able to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not having a roommate.
Exactly. And I actually wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a doctor. But then that upfront, you have to go to law school. You have to tack on this and that. And I was somebody that I hated school. I just wanted to get it done. And so that upfront fear was like, all right, I can't do this.
That's
I want
what
to be a
stops
lawyer.
a lot of people, man. That's what stops a lot of people from. I remember like looking up to the challenge of going to law school. I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna do it right.
I now throughout the years, and I'm grown now, I love the process now. I love even what we're going through right now, this process. It's like, it's grueling. We don't know the outcome, but just enjoying and embracing the process. This has been
such a process, and we're going to get it out the mud.
Yeah.
We're going to do it the same way we did it everything else. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Exactly.
We're not going to skip any steps. And that's the only way we've known how to operate. So why would we take this podcast and try to accelerate it?
Exactly.
Right? If it takes 100 episodes, 50 episodes, if it takes one episode, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
I'll take it, but I'm here for it, right?
Exactly.
So no one's going to tell me, oh, this podcast, this podcast, that. I've heard all that. When it came to law school, when it came to me living in London, when I came to the GCC region, when I want to do everything that I wanted to do. I've been to more countries than people can imagine. My passport, I could do circles around 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people if I wanted to, right?
Exactly.
I've had to get separate passport books because they're going to, no more visa stamps are allowed, right?
Exactly.
So, like, ain't nobody gonna tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done with letting people dictate what I can or can't feel. Right.
Exactly.
And that's hopefully the message that we're communicating or inspiring to people. Right.
Exactly.
Look, if
I want to say something. Even the behind the scenes stuff of us setting up a business and all that, and going in together, it's like that is just a learning process in its own, man. Trademarks and things like that.
Yeah, man, trademarking, marketing agencies, advertising, SEOs, things I don't even understand, right? But look, in that process, you're learning something from me. I'm handling the more the technical, administrative, legal side. You're more on the creative, focal end. So there's things I'm learning on both ends of the business, and we both have to be versed in the business, right? Because like you said, there's no Mike without Jay, and there's no Jay without Mike, right? So like, it's sort of like we need to know both sides of the business because what if I'm not able to talk to someone and we need to close the deal, right? But because of that process, just because I don't know something doesn't mean I shouldn't dive into it and get to know it, right?
Yeah.
So man, like, and just, I want to wind it back. I think a lot of people through this experience, right? And I want to be careful with what I'm about to say. So I'm going to anonymize the person. But I remember when I was living in London, I came back to visit a certain friend.
Okay.
Right. Went over her house and, we were catching up. She just bought a condo. Everything was great. I think she was engaged, thinking about having a baby or whatever. Had a couple dogs. And I remember talking to her about my time in London. I was like, this is great. I don't think I'm coming back. She's like, man, why do you want to be out there? Just come back home. And I remember thinking to myself, come back home to what?
Exactly. Right? Guess what? Home has always been home. It's going to remain home.
It's going to remain home.
Yeah.
But come back home to what? To the same thing I was experiencing 2 years ago?
Yeah.
To the same monotony? To the same experiences I'm going to have to be around the same people? Like, I love my people. Yeah. I love my New Yorkers. It's New York or nowhere forever. But, I'm there 3-4 times a year, right?
Exactly.
Like, so it's sort of like, that's enough time to go see people, right? And when I go back, I go weeks at a time. What people don't know is I'm working UAE hours. So I'm staying up overnight while they're sleeping. I'm working to make the sacrifice to go see them so I can be a better friend, so I can be a better brother, so I can be a better son, and I can be a better uncle, nephew, whatever, grandson, whatever it is, right? So the things I'm willing to put myself through because I want to stay so far away from comfort, right? Because I've only grown through my pain and through my torture and the experiences.
Yep.
I'm willing to do everything I need to do to continue to get better in all facets of my life.
Exactly.
Right. So I mean, those are just some of the tidbits.
Yeah. And wait, I want to just say shout out to the overnight workers. Like if you're doing actual manual hard work, that's crazy, man. Like
Crazy.
that's
Sometimes when I go to the bodega, I'm like, damn, picking up those boxes. This is an easy job.
Shout out
what I gotta
to
do is
y'all,
the easy
man.
job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I be sometimes sipping on my matcha and just typing away on my computer. I'm like, oh, this is so hard. And I'm like,
every time I try to complain, I'm like, okay, there's somebody doing some manual physical labor overnight, crazy hours. So shout out to y'all.
And what are some of the excuses you've heard people use to not pursue something?
They don't have time. They don't have resources.
The time thing is the time. The time one is always the one I laugh at.
Yeah.
The money thing is personal, right?
Yeah.
I can understand not having money to do something, but the time, you'll make the time.
You'll make the time.
You'll make the time.
You'll make the time.
There's 24 hours. You'll make the time.
Yeah.
I used to use that same excuse, and I use this all the time. So you and me, we're sort of like maybe we're rededicating ourselves back to the gym.
Yeah.
I want to have abs, but I don't want abs. And here, let me explain. Right? If somebody were to just be like, "Here's abs today," I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take them." But the same way I've hustled to go to law school, the same way I hustled to get to the UAE or to any other position in my life, I'm not really killing myself in a way like to get those abs, right? And this is just an example, right? Certain people say they want something, but they just want to have it. They don't want the process to actually get it, right?
Yeah.
So I think when I challenge someone, and certain people in my life know I do this often, and sometimes they get annoyed by me. I challenge people to see how bad they want something, because I want to see how serious you are about something. What are you doing on the off days? What are you doing after your main job? How much are you dedicating to this?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's certain people that I know in my life with incredible ideas, way smarter than me, but because I may be outworking them, just putting in more man hours than they are, I've been able to progress in my own ventures and my own things that I want, just for pure fact that I don't want to make excuses for myself, right?
Yeah.
And tying it back to being a person of color, I think we have to work. I think we'll be naive to say this. To get to where we've gotten to, we needed to work 3 times as hard to get here.
Yeah.
Right? Than certain other colleagues that we may have, right? And that's just facts.
Yeah.
Right? That's just facts. So if you're not willing to put in twice the effort of where you've gotten for somebody else, for your own ventures, then you're not serious about that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? You're not serious about that. So the same way I dedicate to my career, which is incredibly important to me, to this podcast, my dedication to you, the dedication that we have to our audience, we have to also dedicate it to everything else that we want to pursue.
We do.
Right? So I think that the time thing is something that I usually don't buy into, right? Because when I was going to school at night, I saw single moms in there with their kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, they have it way harder than I do. So I have no excuses,
exactly.
right? So like, they have it way harder than I do. The money and the resources, I don't, that's a legitimate excuse to some people, because some people are literally living paycheck to paycheck, especially in places like New York City where things are just astronomically expensive. So I don't want to go ahead and pretend to say how blessed I am to be able to fund this podcast out of our own pockets, right? For right now, at least. We're open to branch sponsorships, though. We're open to branch sponsorships, though. But to be able to fund this out of our own pockets is do it relatively without distracting the rest of our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaks to, look, without having to without taking that last flight out, punching that ticket and getting here, maybe we wouldn't have been able to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or not do it as easily.
Not do it in the way that I think we want to. We want to do it right. Yeah. But I think if we didn't, I think our two personalities, if we didn't have the resources, I think we'll find a way. Anyway.
I wanted to keep it a little humble, but I'm going to be a little braggadocious. I think I would have figured it out. Anyway, right? I figured out other things in my life that I wanted, right?
I think the key is, for me, which my takeaway is, just in life in general and how I approach every challenge and every task, is just to start and keep going.
Just start.
Like, keep step by step, and then you're going to look back like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't know I could come here. I didn't know I could get this far. But just keep moving, head down, keep working and working, and you're going to get to whatever destination.
You like Jim Jones?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Did you see the clip where he said I forgot what podcast he was on, but he said if you're missing motivation, the best thing is stay consistent, right? Because along the way, you're going to find that motivation, right? Motivation goes like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Motivation goes up and down, left and right, comes in, comes out. One day I want to be a bodybuilder. The next day I just want to be a fat slob eating McDonald's all damn day, right?
Exactly.
But what keeps me in my lane and what I think has been a big part of my own successes and whatever I do has been because I stay consistent, I'm disciplined.
Yeah.
Right? When I say I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I signed a contract with myself. I want to cast the check that I wrote for myself for that thing.
Yeah.
Right? So what I tell to everyone, and if anyone has if you want to get one thing out of this episode or the whole general theme of this podcast is just stay consistent and start. You need to start first. You need to take a shot.
Yeah.
Whatever shot. I don't care how bad the shot looks.
Exactly.
I don't care how that form looks Sean Marion style. It goes in sometimes. You know what I mean? So the one thing I want to say before we cut off, right? If you have an idea, you wanted to pursue a job, you want to execute on any plan or project, you want to talk to somebody, whether it's for networking, whether it's for romantic reasons, right? Whether it's you want to go shoot your shot, whatever it may be. And the only reason you haven't pursued it is because you say you have no time and because you have a fear of pursuing that or rejection. Look, let me tell you something. Rejection is part of the damn process, right?
Exactly.
Where you're going to get rejected a whole damn lot and you're going to run into a lot of brick walls. But if that's your only reason for not pursuing that thing, this is your message. Get up. I don't care if you get inspired by me or Mike or by some other podcast or by some other creator. Yeah. The whole point is that we're able to achieve so many great things and you don't need to be that once in a generational talent. You can be just good and then get great over the process, right? Exactly. You can be average and then get great. You can be whatever. You can be horrible. You can be horrible and then get great. The problem is just because you don't have God-given talent, just because you don't have maybe the resources at the beginning, you will find the time to do it, right? Yeah. You will find the opportunities, you will find the resources, but staying in your house, staying in the coffee shop, being around the same group of people is not going to get you there. It's just not. It's just not. You have to expand your horizons. You have to go be in different places. And if you're not willing to do that, then I can't help you, right? We can't. Nobody can help you. Nobody can help you. You need to help yourself before you get any inspiration by any podcaster, by any creator, by any Instagram influencer. So that's my message to everyone. I'm going to keep repeating that message for as long as my breath is in my lungs, right? So that's just for me.
Yeah.
You have anything?
My whole thing is you never know until you find out, So just whatever you want to do in life, whoever you want to be in life, just go for it. And then at least when you pursue it, and if it don't work out, then at least you know. I find comfort in knowing, I never want to be out of the dark. Yeah,
what if it's always bothered me, man? Like, what if it's always bothered me? Exactly. And I want to touch on that. What if it's always bothered me?
And I'm going to say what if. My personality is like what if because I always see the positive in it. So I'm like, damn, I missed out on that because that would have been me.
But I want to caveat that. Yeah. There's certain things that are bad for you. Like you don't need to touch a stove to know that it's hot, right? Yeah. So if there's something that you want to pursue that is bad for you, we're not telling you to go up and jump off a cliff without any parachutes, right? Yeah. We're not telling you to do that. Try to prepare as much as you can. Yeah. Do as much research as you can into whatever you want to in whatever you do. But sometimes you're not gonna have all the answers. Sometimes you need to jump into it. We didn't have any answers before we got to this place here. To recording. We didn't have all the answers, right? And if we waited to have all the answers, we'll probably still be in step 1 or 2, like looking at some sort of trademark law act clause, trying to figure things out, right? So we're figuring things out as we go, and we're gonna trip. But the thing is, if you trip, just get back up and keep walking forward. At least trip forward, right?
We're gonna look at this, whatever episode number this is, and then episode
I guarantee
50,
you, 50 we're like,
what was we doing?
We were so bad.
Exactly.
It's okay, and that's okay.
Just
I'm here
grow
for
with
it.
us, y'all.
You just have to. Like I said, it's a journey, and if we want to go far, so we're going together. So that's with our audience.
Exactly.
And I think with that, I just want to go ahead and just tell the audience, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Smash that thumbs up button for the LFO boys. Share this video for us. It really helps our message getting out. It helps our video get more eyeballs on it, right?
Exactly.
Follow us on IG and TikTok. You can follow me at JLureal26 on all social media platforms. You can follow Mike at.
Follow me at If Mike Was Here. Comment, send us an email, send us a DM. Let us know what are your thoughts.
Exactly.
And, or what do y'all want us to speak on, or who should be up here that punched that ticket and took that last flight out and got a story to tell.
Exactly. So we'll be here same time next week, guys. Have a good one.
So peace.
Peace.
My life too pristine.
Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
It was film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly. We gotta make a statement. Last
What's
flight
going
out.
on, man?
Flat out.